Walter Granger stood still, groceries in one hand. A tomato slipped from the top and rolled down the sidewalk. The teenager screamed first. "You don't belong here!" And I thought, wow, she really said that out loud. Then her mother joined in, louder, sharper. Red MAGA hat tilted forward. She jabbed a finger into his chest, like she was stamping him out. He didn't flinch, didn't blink, just watched her, like a man waiting for a storm he'd already predicted. Behind him, sirens slowed. 2 officers stepped out and saluted. She didn't notice, but he did. And he smiled, just barely. He didn't move because he didn't need to. Walter Granger wasn't here to argue. He was here because someone had to come back. 23 years ago, he built that porch himself, painted it pale blue, planted lavender because she liked how it kept the bees away. Now, it's quiet, too quiet. He doesn't sleep in their room anymore, but he still checks the porch light twice, just in case she forgot to turn it off. Walter had spent most of his life in motion. Forward, orders, dust, sandbags. Fallujah didn't give you time to think, only to react. He learned to read chaos like a map. That skill never left. It just quieted. After she passed, he didn't want much. Just a town where people wave without expecting anything. A house that still smelled like her hand cream, and silence. The kind you choose, not the kind forced on you. He wasn't new here, he was just back. But Westbridge changed. HOA meetings became less about maintenance, more about control. The kind of control that came with passive-aggressive fonts and unspoken threats. And women like her, the ones who said community but meant conform. He'd seen her type before. Every base had one, clipboard in hand, eyes that scanned for weakness, not help. Walter knew how this played out. He just didn't think it would start with a grocery bag and a teenage voice crackling with borrowed rage. His hand shifted slightly. The receipt? Number A folded letter. Faint ink, curled corners. The original notice from 2006. Still marked with her handwriting. One line underlined twice. We don't owe them an explanation. She never responded to that letter, and neither did he. But he kept it, not for proof, for principle. In his right pocket, a worn keychain tapped against his thigh. Her old HOA badge. Volunteer, not officer. The kind who baked muffins and brought extra chairs to meetings. She believed in people. Walter? He believed in patterns. And right now, he could see one forming. Fast. She didn't knock, just pressed a neon orange notice against the wooden fence, smoothing it once, flat, centered, then turned and walked away. Like the whole street belonged to her. Walter watched from the porch, didn't say a word, didn't move. The wind picked up, the lavender swayed, but the paper held. Violation. Non-compliant landscaping and unauthorized exterior decor. Bold, italic, smug. She didn't look back. She never did. That was her game. Hit fast, hit formal, make it feel inevitable. The clipboard came next, tucked under one arm like a sheriff in a sundress. Red MAGA hat pulled low, pearl earrings, bare heels on pavement. She walked like someone who'd been obeyed too long. Walter folded the letter in half, then again. Slid it into his back pocket. Not trash, evidence. 2 days later, the trash bins were moved. His green can, marked Granger in block letters, was gone, replaced with one labeled TEMP. A different color, different lid, lighter, cheaper, no note, no warning. That was the second shot. The third came quiet. A request for inspection slipped into his mailbox, handwritten, slanted, signed only HOA Compliance Coordinator. She never signed her name, but he knew. That Sunday she stopped by the mailbox cluster, spoke loud enough for neighbors to hear. Some folks think they're above the rules, she said, voice bright like glass about to crack. The teenage girl beside her snickered. Walter stood 10 feet away, holding a bag of seed, didn't react, didn't even lift his head. But his fingers tightened, just once, around the plastic grip. Across the street, his neighbor, the retired teacher, Mr. Connors, opened his blinds, saw it all, and pulled the curtain closed. No wave, no word. just that slow, guilty retreat of someone who saw everything, but wanted no part of it. Walter looked up then, right at him. Didn't scowl, didn't nod, just held the silence in his mouth like a coin he hadn't spent yet. And inside, the pieces began to set. Letter, bin, inspection, public jab. She thought it was working. She thought he'd bend. She didn't know. He was counting. Sometimes the loudest people get away with the worst things. I've seen it. You've probably seen it too, when silence isn't weakness, just strategy. If this kind of justice speaks to you, you're exactly who this channel was made for. Hit subscribe, drop a thought in the comments. Let's not stay quiet when the timing's finally right. In the military, Walter used to teach, the louder they get, the easier they are to track. And she was sprinting blind. The emails started small, subject lines like concern for community standards, polite wording, subtle jabs. But every sentence carried one purpose: isolate him. She CC'd the entire HOA board, then the gardening club, then the block's group chat. By week's end, she was calling him an unsuitable element, possibly a risk to neighborhood harmony. No one replied, but no one objected either. Walter didn't respond, didn't even open them right away. He printed them, marked the timestamps, filed them chronologically, like prepping a witness folder. At the next community meeting, she smiled at him, the rehearsed kind, warm on the surface, icy underneath. She dragged an extra chair across the room, then sat in his spot. He stood the entire meeting, not a word said. But from the kitchen counter, his GoPro watched everything. Neighbors glanced, then glanced away. He just nodded once, as if counting the seconds. Back home, he transferred the clip to a secure drive, labeled it Public Attempt 1, Physical Displacement, HOA Meeting. The folder was already filling up. She didn't know. But every time she emailed, he was logging language patterns. Every time she smirked, he was framing it against her public claims of inclusion and dignity. She thought she was building a case. In truth, she was building his. Because Walter wasn't just gathering proof. He was mapping escalation, tracking when she crossed lines, legally, socially, morally, and timing every single beat. No one in the room knew. But someone had just set the first legal tripwire, and it wasn't her. The meeting room was beige, forgettable, fold-out chairs, lukewarm coffee, small talk no one meant. But Walter chose seat number 3, right behind the HOA president, exactly where he could be heard without raising his voice. Janine stood early, phone in hand. This man, she pointed, voice sharp, was seen harassing a minor right outside our local store. She hit play, a shaky clip. 20 seconds, just enough to show a teenager backing away. Walter's hand raised mid-sentence. No sound, no context. The room stiffened. Walter didn't flinch, didn't speak. Just reached into his bag, pulled out a hard drive, and plugged it into the projector. His clip began 1 minute earlier, clearer, steadier, sound on, full view. The teenager's words echoed, "You don't belong here." Then Janine, off camera, shouting, commanding, "Take it from him, now!" The groan of a grocery bag tearing, a tomato hitting the ground, and then, "I'm calling the police. This man's threatening my daughter." He let it play, all of it. When it ended, he waited. 2 seconds, 3, then turned slightly, voice low. "I have one question," he said to the board. "In our bylaws, where exactly does it say HOA members can initiate armed police response based on a personal assumption?" Silence, no shouting, no need. He folded the drive back into its case, set it beside his chair, like evidence at a crime scene. Janine tried to recover. I was protecting, but the words didn't land. Too late, too loud. Her own phrase from earlier, "I protect this community from those who don't fit," had just played out of her own mouth. Twice. One woman in the back shifted in her chair. She'd never spoken to Walter, but now she leaned in, whispered, "Thank you. I thought I was the only one who saw it." That was all he needed. He didn't push for an apology, didn't ask for a vote. He'd come with facts. He'd come with time. And now, the room was no longer hers. The notice went up at 6:14 a.m. Red, centered, official. Disruptive resident under HOA review. Signed, Westbridge Security Council. Walter stood there. Groceries by the door again. Same flannel, same quiet. He read the words once, pulled out his phone, tapped open a folder. Night 3, 2:44 a.m. The footage loaded. Janine, in her slippers, handing a rolled poster to her daughter. "You stick it on his front gate, just like I showed you," she whispered. But the mic caught every word. Another clip. At 3:11 a.m., her SUV still idling in the street. She laughed, said it clear. "Who cares about voting? Stick it up, it's done." No vote, no board approval, just her kid, and a fake sanction. Walter didn't send it to the neighborhood, didn't post it on a forum. He sent it to 3 people: the HOA chair, the legal officer, and a retired board member Janine had pushed out 2 years ago. Quiet man, never returned her emails since. He titled the email, "Before you co-sign this, watch." Attached timestamps, audio logs, clip excerpts, fingerprint analysis, no opinions, no anger, just data. At the next meeting, Janine walked in early, blazer pressed, lipstick sharp, ready to finish him. Walter didn't speak, didn't sit either. She cleared her throat. "The individual in question has failed to..." The HOA chair raised a hand. "Stop there. Before we continue, Janine, you'll need to explain why you entered his property at 3:11 a.m. without board consent." The room froze, a cough, a shuffle of papers. Her mouth opened, then stalled. "No," he added, "you don't get to reframe it now." She looked around. Nobody nodded, nobody smiled. Even her daughter, sitting 2 rows back, looked down, hands clenched in her hoodie pocket. That was the break. Walter didn't celebrate, didn't need to. He stood in the back of the room, arms crossed, watching a building collapse, brick by legal brick. That afternoon, Walter went back to the market. Same canvas bag, same blue flannel. The street was quieter now, not out of fear, just recognition. A boy on a bike waved. The man sweeping the sidewalk paused, nodded. From across the street, a yellow curtain shifted in the breeze. Walter didn't wave, didn't speak. He stepped up to the old wooden post where the red warning had been stapled, pulled out a small keychain from his jacket pocket. Faded navy blue, anchor emblem nearly rubbed smooth. He hung it gently on the nail, then stepped back. No sign, no speech. Just that. A piece of memory returned to where it belonged. Across the street, a woman paused while walking her dog. "I still have the bench," she said softly. "The one your wife liked. It's in the shed, if you want it back." Walter didn't answer, just met her eyes. That was enough. He walked the perimeter of his yard once, checked the sprinkler head near the rose bush, adjusted it slightly. Routine. Ordinary. Behind him, the house next door stood half-packed. Boxes by the curb, a U-Haul backing into the driveway. Janine didn't say goodbye. No one came to help her load. But her daughter did pause at the corner, helmet on, backpack slung low. She turned, looked at Walter's porch, then looked away, lowered her head, and kept walking. Walter sat on the step for a while, groceries beside him. The bag leaned slightly, but nothing fell this time. He looked out over the street, then up to the spot on the railing where his wife used to hang lavender. The sun hit just right. Software filtered. He didn't smile, but he stayed, and nobody told him to move. Not everyone fights to win. Some just want no one to touch what they've guarded too long. He didn't hang the keychain to prove anything. He just returned it to where it had always belonged. Some people fight with noise. Some fight with silence. But the deepest kind fights by waiting for others to show who they truly are, waiting for the lie to trip over its own weight. The lavender never grew back, but the nail where she hung it, still there, still strong. Justice didn't come loud. It came in a camera left running, in a question asked at the right time, in a chair not pulled out next time. He never raised his voice, but somehow everyone heard him. It wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about remembering that dignity doesn't have to announce itself. A man can hold the line, with a grocery bag, with an old porch, with the truth laid down quietly and left to speak on its own. Some people think power comes from being heard, but real power, it comes from knowing when not to speak. And still, no one dares move against you, because some boundaries, when quietly held, become impossible to cross.